Hey there, welcome everybody. Good morning to the West Coast, good afternoon to Central and East Coast. You're joining us for another webinar with the Restaurant Technology guys. This is Gary Stotko, and I've got my partner Jeremy Julian there on the other end. Hi Jeremy.
Hey Gary.
We're going to do Murtec 2014 recap, what you may have missed. Really good show this year. Before we jump into this, we want to welcome someone that's playing a huge role in the background for us and is one of the Restaurant Technology guys. His name is Ryan Williams. He's our marketing manager here at Custom Business Solutions. And welcome, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, everyone.
Ryan does a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff to keep Jeremy and I on track, whether it's with the webinars, with the content, and a lot of the infrastructure that has really benefited us as we go forward. So thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, and Ryan was able to join us. Sorry, Gary. Ryan was able to join us at Murtec, and so we thought it appropriate to introduce him since he's been helping us with the webinars for so long, but he was at Murtec, and he'll have some input because he was able to go to some of the sessions that we'll be able to talk about.
Super, thanks, Jer. You know, and I apologize up front if there's any sound or technical issues. I'll take the onus of responsibility on myself. I am remote in the Big Easy. I'm in New Orleans here this week visiting with Copeland's. They've got a franchisee conference that we were able to participate in. So Jeremy, Ryan, and I are all in different locations. So bear with us as we move through the presentation here today. Quick favor to ask of everybody, if you've got multiple viewers behind one terminal or one monitor or one big screen TV, shoot us a quick note in the question box at the bottom, in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and let us know how many people are watching. I appreciate you guys' help with this. So let's jump right in. What is Murtec? This is kind of funny because you hear people, I think that I'm going to listen better next year, Jeremy, but it seems like folks on the West Coast call it Murtec, and people on the East Coast call it Murtec. The reality is it is the gold standard, no question about it. No comparison with, and I'm not going to name the other conferences, but the reality is that having participated in this for CBS, how many years now, Jer?
I don't know. I think that I heard the organizers of the event from Hospitality Technology talking about it being 9 years. I think they've done it. I think we've done it 6 or 7 of those 9 years, and so I think next year is 10 years. I think that's what they had said. I don't quite remember, but I know it's been quite a great conference for us as an organization. So.
Absolutely. I've been participating with Custom Business Solutions the last 3 years, and quite frankly, as far as conferences go, this is one of the ones that I get excited about participating in. Murtec is attended by everybody that's anybody, and I don't mean that just as the large multi-units. It's regional also, so you really get a great flavor for peer engagement in and on the technical side, the IT side, that also is drawing in the CIOs obviously, but the CEOs and the COOs. Really dynamite event. I give Hospitality Technology all the props in the world because every year this event improves a little, changes a little, and they are doing a dynamite job of keeping us all relevant. And so, anything you want to add to that, Jer?
No, when we had talked about it being both educational for those that are attending the webinar, but also I hope that it piques the interest of those people in the industry, because it truly is, like Gary said, one of those conferences that we sign up for while we're at the show this past year for next year's event almost every time, because it is such a good event, and the people that put on the event listen, and you'll hear later that there was something new this year that was great. It was something that had been discussed with the attendees as to what could we do to make this event better, and they actually listen and change based on those things. Unfortunately, I think some other conferences out there do what they do and don't necessarily change. So I think it's great that they take the input from both the vendors as well as the customers that are there attending to hear what would make the event better, and they're doing a great job. So.
Yeah, exactly. And as you guys can see on the screen, it is a technology showcase. It is smaller as far as it's a more intimate environment. You get a snapshot there of a portion of the room, but there's 40 vendors that participate. It's by invitation only. And I think the strength of this conference is, quite frankly, the peer networking. Obviously, the technology showcase and the information that's conveyed through hospitality technology is of huge value. But then the added benefit is the opportunity to not only hear and digest the information, but talk about it with your peer group, and also converse about what challenges folks are facing within their own organization, what they're doing as next steps with technology, and then this year the skill building, and we'll talk about in a later slide, Murtec University. And then very finally, the research that's being done. I know that with some of the customers that we had invited to participate were there from a research standpoint, and gave them an opportunity to be there with us and make some personal introductions to other vendors that we've had long-standing relationships with.
Yeah, no, very much so. I think I would echo your statement that the interaction between different organizations, that they wouldn't have a forum with some of these larger chains if they just called and tried to reach out, but because they're sitting at a trade show for 2.5 days or 2 days or however long the customers are there, they get audiences with these customers and or vendors that they might have a hard time otherwise doing. And it's even some of our largest chains that show up to it that interact with other large chains that are national in scope or different regions. They'll talk to them about, how did you overcome this challenge? How did you overcome that challenge? It's been just phenomenal for our customers. Many of our customers come back year after year specifically because it helps move their businesses forward faster by going to the conference.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I would add to that, Jeremy, is that I've never found it to be a salesy type conference. And so to just be in communication with, to just be engaged in dialogue that is invaluable for what folks are doing and where people are going, benefits the whole entire audience. So the speaking sessions, we had Jim Carroll. He's a Keynote, a Futurist take on consumer trends. Jeremy, I know you got to see Jim speak, so give us a little recap on your takeaways from his speech.
Yeah, this again back to a little bit of the feedback that I know personally CBS had given to the team, and I don't know how many other people had, but is to get somebody that kind of is going to talk about what's coming in technology, consumer technology. You guys, if any of you guys have showed up to our webinars, you'd hear us talking about the consumerization of IT and how much it's going to change. The biggest thing that I took from Jim Carroll is, if you're not out there pushing the limits with technology within your restaurant space, you're behind the curve. And they did a poll in the middle of his speech, and there were some that were either thinking about it and some that were actually out pushing that envelope, and then others that are like, you know what, we don't know what to do, and that's why we're here. So, you can see some of the quotes up there. I thought some of them were really, really interesting. 60% of Apple's revenue comes from products that didn't exist. That's a crazy statistic that, Apple, as, largest company in the world, I don't know, today they're the largest company in the world, but 60% of their revenue didn't exist. The model that was there didn't exist 4 years ago. Same thing's going to happen to your guys' restaurant space. I think that, the models by which people are ordering food is not going to happen in the same venue that you're expecting. You guys have heard us talk about mobile, you guys have heard us talk about tablets, and we'll talk more about that later. But just great futurist that was talking about all of the things that were happening with technology and kind of set the tone, because he opened up the conference just to say innovation and technology is the key to taking us to the next level.
Good. And then Facebook, next frontier for food service. Ryan, I think you were able to, you or Jeremy were able to participate in this one.
Yeah, and Facebook and social media in general, it really is kind of becoming the future, and it's really making a ginormous push in business and how business is conducted these days. Really, what social media does, and what Steve was able to discuss with us, is that it opens up the platform for a communication tool that gives brands personalities that can go out and they can actually engage with their customers on a level that they've never been able to engage before. Like it says on the slide, it's creating that dialogue between the brand and the consumer. It's no longer just pushing a message out, but it's actually taking in information and processing that information and then making changes from there. Like we mentioned earlier, HT took what we said in, processed it, and made changes going forward. That's what restaurants have to do these days. It's storytelling. It's basically giving your brand a persona and living with your users on Facebook, living with your consumers, people that are ultimately spending money at your stores, and it's being smart about how you do it.
Yeah. No, well said. It's funny that I love the bullet. Facebook didn't invent friends any more than loyalty programs invented loyalty. To your point, Ryan, this open dialogue is creating a more invaluable relationship between consumer and company that has ever existed in our past. And so there's multiple mediums for restaurateurs to engage their clients, and each of those mediums plays a value. The challenge for each of us is to determine which medium is going to best suit not only your existing business model, but the resources within your business model, and what fits the personality or the brand that your company represents. You'll hear us talk time and time again about branding, and all of these things come down to what is the core of your personality as a business, and what steps are you going to take to engage your consumer going forward.
Yeah, and it's funny that the brands are getting smarter. For myself, I was out buying a wedding gift at a store this weekend, and I would check in on a social media platform, and they tried to engage me in a conversation. What's on the list this week? Who are you buying for? And it started a dialogue with a brand that I would have never had that engagement, all through social media. And who knows? It's some social media expert that's somewhere else. But if you're not in those places, it's leveling the playing field to allow you to engage. And one of the things that I had heard from some of the attendees that attended that is just leveling the playing field for these smaller guys and even the bigger guys. If you're not doing it, there's conversation happening about your brand out there. You either can be involved in it or not. Figure out how to get involved in the conversation so that you can steer the conversation and make sure that people are talking positively about your brand and coming in to spend money.
Absolutely. And then HT's restaurant tech study. I was able to sit in this one, and it was outstanding. To have Abby stand up there and share with us the direction through this survey that the industry is going. Technology budgets are on the rise. In the next 5 years, more restaurants will be spending, more on IT. The point that was made was that in marketing and technology, those dollars in the restaurant companies will be higher than what is being spent within IT or the IT department themselves, which is just fascinating. It speaks back to what we were talking about with brand engagement and leveraging technology for that engagement. IT is a corporate level decision, but it's often unguided. They gave some relevant examples of change taking place within the organization, both an organized approach at a corporate level and an unorganized approach, which usually comes from the field. And quite frankly, the unorganized approaches coming from the field are oftentimes more beneficial than the organized approaches coming through corporate. Business efficiency and employee productivity, driving technology spending. It goes back to that opportunity to engage and leveraging loyalty. That, again, another example of customer engagement. And then, interestingly, SaaS models and how hardware costs are decreasing. So with the, you've got companies outside of the restaurant space like Salesforce.com and Constant Contact and other numerous SaaS models and the direction by which now both point of sale and other service providers within the hospitality technology space are converting to a SaaS model because of the benefit of that model and its ability to enhance, upgrade, and continue to move forward much more quickly than in past business models where software was purchased. And then mobile and integrating social media. No doubt, a huge portion, at least 30 or 40% of, if not more, of the conference was spent on integrating either mobile and some capability with guest ordering or proposed guest ordering as we move forward with that in the future, and or integrated social media. So anything, Jer or Rai, that you could add to that?
No, I think, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the high points, but the only point that I would say is hospitality technology, part of this is a commercial for their show, but they do day in, day out, week in, week out, deliver relevant information about our space. So if you're not already a subscriber to their magazine and or checking out their website, however you engage with their brand, they are an authority in our space that a lot of people look up to for who's doing what, and they constantly are writing articles and stories about it. And this was a great study that they conduct, I think, annually, if not every 2 years, but that just kind of consolidates all of what everybody's talking about and what everybody's thinking about, and they go out and survey a bunch of different brands to figure out what they're doing. So,
and I want to put it out there for the group. If you guys have any questions about anything that we're going over, about any of these speakers, if you have any specific questions, feel free to type that question right in there at the question box, and we'll be sure to address that as they come up.
Thanks, Ryan. Connectivity in your restaurant, Jeremy. What did you find with Wi-Fi in the restaurants and where the industry is going and what we heard?
Yeah, I think that the conversation continues to come up, whether it's at the show or even with our existing customers, is who's delivering Wi-Fi? Are they delivering guest Wi-Fi? What does it look like? Is it managed? Is it unmanaged? Do you need them to do a purchase and it needs to have a key code at the bottom of the receipt? Again, more and more consumers are expecting you to have Wi-Fi when you walk in. Large brand, large retail brand, I know at my local Target, they just rolled out Wi-Fi into the local Target. And so I think more and more people are getting to that place where mobile is becoming a part of their business strategy for their internal IT needs, whether that's for inventory, point of sale, point of purchase, all of these different things. We talked a while back about the Chili's and Applebee's stuff. Wireless is there. Do you, as a brand, want to offer wireless to your guests? And in this session, they talked about the pluses and minuses of those different things. How do you market it if you are offering it to the guest? Do you do it well? Do you do it in a professional way? We talk to our customers all the time about making sure that you're not just going and buying the $59 device out at Best Buy or at any other electronics retailer. You need to make sure that if you're going to do this, that you're protecting yourself from PCI, that you're segmenting your network, that you're keeping bandwidth management, and so those are some of the different things that that they talked about in this session. And again, part of it's a brand statement, part of it's if you're going to offer it, do it well, make sure that you're protecting yourself, all of those kind of things. So.
Yeah. Ultimately, it comes down to security within that Wi-Fi environment and how you're going to leverage it for your business model.
Yeah, and again, if you're putting in Wi-Fi for your point of sale, point of purchase type devices, do you also then extend that out to guests if you hadn't already been doing so? And if you do it in a secure way that keeps you protected from PCI and all of those kind of good things.
Yeah.
Gary, there's a couple of questions, but I think they'd probably be better to be answered at the end.
Okay.
One about social media, and then about just a question about how many consumers have and how many consumers select a brand because they have Wi-Fi or select a restaurant because they have Wi-Fi. That was a question that got asked. I didn't necessarily. I'll answer that one since it's real pertinent to that last slide. I don't know necessarily. I don't recall if they talked about that. If they did, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and do some research and get back to that question about how many people have. If there's information out there, we'll go ahead and do the research and get back to you. If there's not information out there, then we'll respond back and just let you know that we haven't seen any polls. I don't recall them saying anything in that Wi-Fi talk about it. So, okay.
And day 2 was Disruptive Innovation. This was a really interesting roundtable led by a gentleman from churches, and panelists were Wahoo's Fish Taco, Firehouse Subs there in the middle, and then FSC Franchise Company. Mingo Lee is on the left, one of our customers at Wahoo's, and it was really neat to hear them up there discussing their internal challenges and the steps they're taking. Jeremy, you want to give us some commentary on what you heard?
Yeah, I think that all of the organizations are different sized brands, different sized organizations, but the biggest thing the biggest overall statement that I would say about that panel discussion was just that there's constant pressure from the field, from your franchisees and or your consumers to be what they want to engage with your brand, whether that's loyalty, that's mobile, that's web, that's curbside, that's, all of these different solutions are all getting pushed up to corporate, and unfortunately, oftentimes they're in a reactionary mode. Each of the brands had different strategies that they would talk about it, but the consumerization of IT is disrupting what their strategies even are, but they just continue to drive them to the next level, which has been really good. The one thing that I took away from the speech that I'm going to steal, for lack of a better term, is something that Mingo said from Wahoo's, and I think it caught a lot of people in the room by surprise, is oftentimes they'll roll out a solution or propose to roll out a solution into their franchise organizations, and there's pushback because of the cost of that solution. They've already got an existing infrastructure and don't want to have to pay for this. And what his suggestion was that he does with his franchisees was that he asks them to pay for it, but then he gives them incentive bonuses on the backside in the form of franchise fee reduction if they hit certain metrics, say for a loyalty solution that he's wanting for them to pay for, and it's going to cost the restaurants $2,500. So $2,500 the restaurant has to pay for that loyalty solution, and he didn't use any numbers. I'm just kind of throwing them out there as an example. But $2,500 for a loyalty solution, but if you get a take rate of 10% of your people that sign up for loyalty, then he'll give you X amount of dollars back. And if you can get up to 20% to get people to engage in that program, then he'll give you even a larger percentage. And so he talked about how he's gaining adoption from the field for those top-down type solutions, whereas that was something that, again, caught me by surprise, and I thought it was a great thing that they're doing at Wahoo's, because even the guy from Church's Chicken kind of said, oh, how does that work for your brand? And he was the guy that was leading the discussion because they didn't have any program in place, and we're getting a lot of reluctance from the franchisees to adopt some of the technology innovations that they'd been talking about.
Another point that I would bring up from this particular roundtable discussion was, Firehouse Subs has a very aggressive growth. They've had a very aggressive growth over the last recent history, I'll say, and they've been able to use technology to help drive that growth in a very controlled fashion. So they're able to standardize their franchise locations with a very tight model that is controlled at a corporate level, and that's one of the big points that I took away. That if used correctly, this disruptive innovation isn't necessarily, it's driving change for the better, and it's driving change to help you have greater control and greater standardization over the course of all your chains, any locations, any remote locations you may have.
Yeah, that was a good one. I forgot about that.
No, good statement, because don't hold me to the numbers, but I want to say in support of Brian's comment, Firehouse Subs has seen nearly 1,000% increase over the last 2 or 3 years in the growth of their brand. I know they've been ranked in the top 5, if not number 1 or 2, as far as growing brands year in and year out over the last handful of years. So. And then the POS Super Session, I wasn't able to participate in this one, but if you guys could give me some of the takeaways from this session.
Yeah, I think to the point that if any of you guys have listened to any of what we've had to say over the last 12 months, it's again, or even in the earlier part of this session, is that all of these different business models are things that you need to be considering if you're not already in that place, whether it's web ordering, it's guest facing, getting to a SaaS model, or getting to cloud-based solutions. PCI is still a very relevant topic. EMV is a topic that's out there, and we'll talk more about that later. Bringing your solutions together is something that was talked about in this session. Bringing integration issues of bringing all of these solutions and making sure that they play nicely together, that you have some level of control over what's out there. It was a great session to just kind of talk about what's happening in the POS space.
Yeah, the biggest challenge being the integration issues, because each of these components, if you will, are oftentimes an afterthought. And so the industry faces these integration challenges of bringing mobility, maintaining PCI infrastructure, and then layering in more capabilities for guest engagement. So as we go forward, this will become much more intriguing and relevant for all of us. And then this was new this year, Murtec University. Boy, I heard about a couple of the sessions. This is just for the participants. No vendors allowed in this portion, and it's invaluable information that was conveyed in these sessions, peer-to-peer, opening up the floor to ask a whole bunch of questions of your peers and with your peers. And all the feedback that I got from Murtec University and the topics that they covered was outstanding. We need to send out a huge thank you to John Laporte. He's the Vice President of IT, and he was, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say El Pollo Loco.
Yes, thank you. John Laporte at El Pollo Loco was sharing with folks CBS's move into cloud-based POS. So thank you to John. But this was, I don't know about you guys, but everything that I heard from the participants was very, very powerful and very, very positive.
Yeah, this was on the very first day of the show on Wednesday, I believe, and they had a cocktail hour after Murtec University, a couple hours after it. And everybody that I talked to that had gone to it, it was a huge topic of conversation that they were very, very excited about it. And again, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, that the people at Hospitality Technology looked at it and said, you know what, this is something that would provide value, and so let's open it up. And so everybody was very excited about what it did, and that they were able to talk to different people. And one other shout out that I would like to throw out there is Brian Pearson from Stacked Restaurants also led a session, and I heard a lot of really good stuff from people that listened to Brian's idea of tablets and what tablets can do for your restaurant, and put them at the table and getting it in front of a guest and those kind of pieces. That was another one that I would say thank you to Brian for that.
Yeah, they're really pushing ahead on their customer engagement. I mean, they started with guest-facing POS, and empowering their guests to control their own experience within the restaurant by having tablets at the table. But they've gone well beyond that and expanded it initially into social media with Facebook and Twitter, and they continue to grow that engagement at the store level, and it seems to be giving them great results.
Yeah, they're actually in the middle of launching a app for your mobile platform as well, so you can engage with the brand and order your food from an app that lives on your phone, and have the same experience that you would have on an iPad in the store with a phone, Android phone or an iPhone, those kind of things. So
that's good stuff. And then, what was the biggest buzz at Murtec this year?
Yeah, I mean, we try to consolidate. And again, one of the things I do want to say is we're conscious of your guys' time. We've only got a few more minutes left. We try and keep these things to 20 or 25 minutes, and I know we're running a little bit over today because there was a lot to cover. But as you look at this this list, somebody asked me, and every time we get back from the show, it's like, well, what did you learn? What did you experience? And Ryan, Gary, and I kind of sat down and talked about what these top 5 things were that I was talking to people about, and maybe because we're not in the enterprise reporting space, in a significant way, maybe that's why we didn't hear about that. But these are the things that were talked about as tablets and what they're doing for the businesses, and how do you integrate tablets into your space? How do you integrate mobile, whether that's phones, consumer devices, those pieces. The innovation, just any kind of innovation, social media innovation, innovation with all of these different things that are coming in, whether it's technology to measure your temperatures on your food on the line, to the drive-through timing, to the call center reporting and offshoring offsiting your telephone pieces to have consistent results. All of these things are things that continue to come up as far as how do we use technology to be more efficient and do the things that we need to do. But that last one on there that continued to come up, and unfortunately I don't think a whole lot of people have a lot of answers for it, is the whole advent of EMV. And if you're not familiar with it, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming out from the banks about EMV and the chip and pin, chip and signature idea. A lot of people continue to ask me, what are you doing with EMV? What's everybody talking about with EMV? And unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot of answers, other than I did talk with 2 groups, one out of the UK who already has EMV, and another group out of Canada that also has EMV, and was able to get a little bit educated, but both of them said it's going to be painful, and it's going to take a while to get adoption, both from the consumer as well as from the restaurant. So, Ryan, did you have some other things that okay. Yeah, those were the things that I would say continue to get talked about. Unfortunately, on the EMV conversation, there wasn't a whole lot of answers other than it's going to be painful and it's going to take a while to get adopted from both the consumer and from the consumer, restaurants, and from the banks. All 3 of those players need to all come together in order to hit this goal of 2015, which may end up extending or may end up hitting in 2015, which is where the mandate's at this point.
Yeah, it seems like with EMV, there's a couple components tied to it, and the middleware, folks that are in charge of capturing the information and conveying it back and forth between processor and point of sale are in motion. It seems that the hardware folks are primed and ready to deal with that at the mag swipe or with something like Verifone or products like that. And then the biggest gap that I'm hearing is from the banks and the challenge that they face in reissuing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of new credit cards that will have the chip embedded. And that is one of the things that has come up most recently, that it's an expense that the banks seem to be possibly fighting and or resistive to.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's going to be expensive. It's going to change the workflow for the restaurants. It's going to, they're going to have to invest in technology that's different than what they have today. And so I heard a lot of different people talk about I'm working on it, I don't know anything about it, to, hey, we've already started testing some devices, and so it's all kind of across the board. And so we'll continue to talk about it as more and more information becomes available.
And then finally, you know what? It's Vegas, so a lot of fun stuff, neat stuff. Shout out to our hosts with Hospitality Technology, with Abby and Lenore. Put it on a wonderful event. Shout out to Sushi Roku, which hosted us on our Tuesday night dinner. We had an outstanding time. Sushi Roku is part of Innovative Dining Group, a really successful small boutique chain out of West Hollywood. They do a dynamite job in multiple locations. So if you ever have an opportunity to pop into one of their brands, you will not be disappointed. And then on Wednesday night, we were out at Brooklyn Bowl, a really super innovative concept. Speaking of innovation, this isn't a technology innovation, but a super innovative concept that combines bowling with a concert venue with super high quality fine dining level food in a casual atmosphere. What an experience. How about you guys?
Loved it. It was my first Murtec show, and overall, I had a great time. I met some really, really interesting, very knowledgeable people. I learned a lot about the industry that I'm in, more so than I have, and got to share some good experiences, some good people. Sushi Roku was a great time. That's actually me giving the thumbs up there in the upper left-hand corner. I was enjoying myself. So, yeah, overall, great experience.
Yeah, and so for those of you that haven't made it out to the show, it's Vegas, so you get to enjoy Vegas after the event's over. But again, even at these dinners, we had, these were dinners that were hosted by CBS, and there was 20, 30 people at these dinners that were able to interact in a social setting outside of the show that were great. After they had already had the show and the educational sessions that had gone on. So anybody that's looking to go next year, let us know and we can get you guys on the invite list through HT.
Yeah, we definitely next year. Ryan and I have already started planning, sending out email blasts to our sphere of influence to start promoting this. Likely the end of November, early December. It is a March event every year, but the build up to it and getting people organized and going the right direction and participating takes a lot, both for us and Hospitality Technology. So we promise to do our best to really broadcast this event aggressively next year and get as many people. I understand that this was the most widely attended event in Murtec history. So with that, we'll segue into the Q&A, and I know we're running way over, so we'll make this quick and dirty, and I'll turn it over to Jeremy and Ryan with any questions on that end.
Yeah, I think all of the questions that came through we answered throughout the sessions, and again, if there's anything that comes in after, please you guys can engage with us either in via email, social media, all of those different channels, and we can answer any questions that you might have beyond what we presented today.
Great. And thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jeremy. Folks, you can join Restaurant Technology Guys next week, April 16th. We'll be doing North Store order entry, hands-on. And you can visit our blog at restauranttechnologyguys.com, connect with us on Twitter at RestTechGuys, and visit us on Facebook. We are socially active, as you can see, but it really is to the help of you guys, helping this grow and helping us build this up and continue to deliver you guys relevant, compelling information. So thank you, Ryan and Jeremy, and thank you to all in attendance today. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.